people might call this the third installment of Korea-Italian cooking rather than Korea-Foreign cooking. The first video I ever did for YouTube was a video for a recipe called Chuncheon style kimchi pizza, where I took fiery, spicy dakgalbi sauce and used it as a basis for a kimchi pizza. The second video I did, probably about 4 or 5 months later, was for a recipe called Chuncheon Alfredo, where I took the very same sauce, but instead of putting it on pizza, I mixed it with a mild, creamy Alfredo sauce to make Chuncheon Alfredo. The video that I'm going to make for you today, rather than using hot, spicy peppers, I'm going to be using Korean pernilla leaves instead to make you a special pesto sauce. What is pesto? Well, pesto is a dish that originated in Genoa, Italy, and the term pesto comes from the Italian word pesta, which means to pound, because traditionally the pesto would be made with basil leaves, olive oil, garlic, that would be beaten together in a mortar and pestle. The main star of our recipe today is called the pernilla leaf, or you might see it referred to in some cookbooks as a sesame leaf, but in Korean it's called Kkaenip. And one defining characteristic of the leaf itself is the size. Look how large this thing is. It's about as big as my hand. Traditionally, Koreans will either eat these leaves made as a kimchi, or the other way they usually eat them is with rice in the middle, then rolled up and eaten similar to Greek dolmatis. A second characteristic of the leaf is its color. On one side, you will notice it is a deep green. But when you look on the other side of it, you'll see that it's hiding a beautiful purple, but yet the vein is still green. Here's one other little irony to this leaf, is that even though you'll see it referred to as sesame leaf in most Korean cookbooks, it's not really related to sesame at all. It is actually more closely related with fennel, mint, and basil, which is one of the reasons why I'm using it for this pesto recipe. So I worked and I worked and I worked really hard on the recipe until I got it down to a consistent recipe that I really liked. So my next step before I try to make it into a video is to test it. Since I don't believe in animal testing, I tested it on my husband's coworkers. As I was searching the net for potential Kkaenip pesto competition, I discovered that blogger Joe McPherson of zenkimchi.com had posted a version of Kkaenip pesto on his blog back in April 2007. The reason I'm mentioning this is I just simply think it's common courtesy that I should acknowledge that somebody came up with an idea before I did, even though I did come up with my idea on my own. Now let's make some pesto. Now we'll just simply put all the ingredients together into the food processor. First with the leaves, and you can notice here I'm just going to rip these up and just put them into the food processor. I've got about maybe 20 leaves in here. Half a cup of toasted pine nuts. 2 tablespoons of minced garlic, a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil, and since this is not going to be cooked, I would advise you to get your hands on the absolute best olive oil you can afford. 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of ground pepper. I'm using white pepper here, but if you prefer black pepper, that works as well. And now we will simply turn on the food processor until we have made this into a very fine paste. After your pasta has been completely cooked, strain it and then put it into a bowl. You'll add your pesto and stir it up until the pasta is completely coated. How does this pesto taste? Well, one of my husband's coworkers told me that it is, quote, earthy and herbaceous. If you find that the Kkaenip or the garlic flavor is a little bit strong for you, you could put in a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese and an additional 1/4 cup of olive oil if you want to mellow out the flavor a little bit. But I think you'll find that the recipe, just as it is, will be suitable for most tastes. Thank you for watching.